Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Hello. Can you guys hear us? Thumbs up if you can hear us.
You guys can hear us?
Cool.
Excellent.
As she mentioned, I'm Jeremiah. They call me Bang. This is my brother, Chris.
Hey, good afternoon.
We're super excited to be here. First time podcast movement people, and so it's been a dope experience so far. So we want to talk today about how can your studio generate revenue if you are someone who likes to make a little extra money, show of hands, who can appreciate, okay, right, my girl, I get it. I'm with you. Okay, so I'm actually going to begin with a story. So let's see. If you look in this this photo, you see a very sweet lady. This is my grandmother. And when I was growing up, my grandmother wouldn't allow us to watch much video. We went outside to play. We got to color, but she wouldn't let us be in front of a screen. She thought video would never work. It would never be, a major thing. And then you fast forward to last week, I hear this laughter from the bedroom, and it's just like this belly laugh. And I'm assuming she's on the phone with my aunt or something like that. And I go in there, and she's scrolling Facebook and TikTok Reels, just laughing. And I'm like, wow, you see how far video has come and how the times have changed. And so today I want to talk a little bit about the power of video. Why video? Why now? We at podcastvideos.com have saw this kind of gap in the market, and we noticed that this tool, this asset is gaining a lot of traction, a lot of attention. I'm more of a traditional text and image type of guy, but even I can't deny some of the statistics that we're seeing on just the rise of video. And so why is video important? We like to say from a discoverability standpoint, I'll let you take a picture of some of these statistics, or you can read them all, breeze through them really quickly. But it says 70% of consumers discover brands through YouTube, and so that's a staggering number for people looking for discoverability. You also see that if you incorporate video in any of your marketing, you are 50 times more likely to be indexed on Google's first page. And so it's important, and it's really good, as you can see, for discoverability. That last statistic said 83% at the time of this slideshow, and now it's 85% of all internet traffic by the end of this year will be video. And so if you need it more convincing on the power of video, maybe these stats will, demystify that a little bit for you. Chris, I'll let you jump in on engagement.
Sure. I was just going to say, Bang, real quick, I think about of my podcast consumption habits, 3 probably of the last 4 shows that are now in regular rotation, I came to through video, social clips, and I thought, okay, this is interesting, and then I dove in. And so I'm a lifelong print media guy. I hated video, and now I'm like, yeah, all right, it's it. Yeah.
Anybody out there like Chris, a little bit hesitant at first? Yeah, okay, right. So it's not just us. And then you talk about engagement. Discoverability is one thing, but what's driving people's purchasing decisions and what's engaging people? And you see here that 78, almost 80% of people prefer to learn about products through video. And as we talk through these statistics, just think about your own habits. If I'm looking to purchase a pair of shoes or a new air fryer, best believe
if you're looking for a belt.
Fair enough. Or a belt for that matter. I'm going online and I'm looking to see videos of different products. And so even though these numbers are, they feel inflated and they feel large, it kind of makes sense when you think about your own habits. And so, if you are a person, this is what we like to say, it says your studio was made for more. And when you think studio, sometimes you think about the lights and sometimes you think about the expensive equipment. But if you have a camera, if you have a microphone, even if it's at your kitchen table, we consider you a studio.
That's right. You don't have to have we are fortunate to work in a studio, 4 rooms. Every room is tricked out differently for podcast creation. But yeah, to Bang's point, if you have a mic, you have a camera, you are a studio, and we're going to talk through some ways that you can monetize that and generate some additional revenue.
So right now, if you look at this slide, most of us in here are podcasters, and you probably use your podcast for one thing, podcast. right? It makes sense. But Chris and I are here to show and to say, hey, I would encourage you to maybe start to expound your thought process a little bit, because there's a lot of opportunities to generate some additional income just based off of the stuff that you have at your house that you already use to record your podcast.
And so we're not going to run through every line of this slide. It's built to feel overwhelming because we want you guys to see there's a ton of possibility of how to use your studio, your camera, your mic for additional revenue. We think of it really in 4 different buckets. We're going to talk about corporate and business. We're going to talk about tapping into the creator and influencer community. We're going to talk about families and family history and personal, and then we'll talk about the education space. One thing I wanted to leave you guys with or mention as we go into this, there's a studio in Miami, I think it's called Bono Motion. They are a large recording studio. They are encouraging every business to build out a studio in their office space, and they're estimating you can generate at least an additional $2,000 a month in using your existing equipment to tap into some of these markets.
Yep. When I was building this slide out, you guys, it was an exhaustive list of stuff, and I was like, man, I'm going to put a lot of things on here on purpose so we can look at this and be like, oh my goodness. But this is a fraction of all of the ways that you can generate revenue based off of your current studio setup. And so
we'll start with corporate, and if you look at HubSpot or any of the other kind of marketing gurus that are out there, if you look at their studies and their surveys for the year, you'll keep coming across this stat that 3 out of 5 marketers are planning to either up their spend in podcasting or they're planning to invest in podcasting. My mind immediately when I saw that stat went to, of course, host reads, podcast sponsorships, but the reality is we're seeing more and more businesses who are wanting to create podcast content, whether that's for their internal communication, like Garver Engineering, which is based in Arkansas. That's one of the, I think, 5 or 10 largest engineering firms in the country. They're using podcasting as a way to reach their employees. And so you can do it for internal conversations. You can also do it externally. Arkansas Children's Hospital has created a podcast where they bring doctors in and nurses and staff to talk about the life-saving work that they're doing, which of course then improves their visibility and connects people further to their mission. The next thing at the other kind of end of the spectrum is family. And well, let me back up real quick. I'm talking about corporate at a very big level, largest engineering firms in the country. You can actually do that with your local bank, your local law firm. We've run into several people this week. We were getting questions earlier from a CPA who is launching a podcast on behalf of his CEO. So think about the businesses you come in contact with at church, at your kids' little league, your grandkids, dance recital, the community connections you have. Lean into those and look for ways to create podcast opportunities for local businesses. Now, the other end of the spectrum is family. If you're looking at Ancestry.com, the DNA testing, some of these photo and memory albums, by 2028, that is a $5 billion industry. And so we were fortunate enough at our studio to have a family come in, sit down. We turned on the cameras, turned on the mics, and it's just a family talking to each other and sharing their stories. And I was telling Bang earlier as we were talking about his grandma, that opening slide, my grandpa was like my first hero, right? I have a lot of still images of him. I don't have video content of him. And I think that is a tremendous opportunity. Start with your own families, right? But that is a tremendous opportunity to sit down with the patriarchs and matriarchs of your family and tell stories and then create that content and go share it with the world. And you can make money off of that. That sounds terrible to say, but I would pay anything to be able to have video of my grandfather today.
Man, that was beautifully said. I don't even have anything to add. Next slide. It's good. Well said, Chris. Well said.
Thanks. I'm going to go to education real quick, and then we'll come back to creators. So on the education piece, COVID, like everything else, was a really transformational shift for how we consume, how we interact with one another. So I was looking at a stat the other day, 60 to 70% of college students are now engaging in e-learning. And so even if they're in a traditional classroom, their professors are still recording videos. They're doing Zoom calls with experts from around the country that would be really expensive to bring them into the class, but you can record that content. So I would go to your local professors, your local universities, and say, hey, I've got a mic, I've got a camera, we'd love to kind of talk about ways we could partner. The other piece of that is virtual field trips for elementary schools, and then music lessons, which I'll let our resident artist speak to.
You guys, these are things that we have, to Chris's point, been fortunate enough to see clients utilize all of these services that we mentioned, whether that's the webinars or whether that's the family legacy packages. And so these are things that might feel a little bit far out and that might feel like hypotheses, but they're things that actually work. And so when you get into the creator space, we know that anytime you go out to a restaurant or you go out to an event, you see people with the camera in their face, and content has become a booming industry. I remember when I was growing up, and maybe even a little different for you, Chris, you know, we wanted to be basketball players. We wanted to be maybe doctors, but now you can talk to a child and they'll tell you, oh, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a creator. And so your space can be utilized to help support some of those people as well.
I'm going to add to that too, and Bang, I think that's exactly right. But the other thing, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of my podcast consumption now is coming from the clips that I've seen on Reels, because I'm old, I don't have TikTok, but I see them on Reels, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I think what we're about to see and what we believe is that we can flip that paradigm a little bit. We can now go to influencers and creators on the short form platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Reels, and we can now say, hey, I've got an opportunity for you to tell your story in a longer form, and this is going to allow you to connect with your audience in a new way, in a different way. The reality is, for influencers, a lot of them are going to have a shelf life on how long they can be a beauty influencer, how long they can be a traveler. But if you can connect them to longer form storytelling through podcasting, they're going to be able to expand that reach and expand the audience. And so we think there's a lot of potential for you guys with your studios to do that.
Yep, that's right. Thumbs up. Who's still with us? Thumbs up. Oh, okay, good deal.
Only two people left. That's cool.
Yeah. So we went high level. Now we'll break it down a little bit more on what does that mean for you today? How can you turn your studio from just podcast to generating some revenue? So we'll talk about that. Here are 5 different streams you can launch today. If you want to take a picture of this slide, also you can holler at us after this. We can send you the presentation. But the first thing is just rent the space. A lot of creators want to create but don't feel like they have the space or have a room. And so the first and simplest way is rent out the space.
Yep. It might feel weird to invite people into your house. I get that, but you might find a library or a local co-working space where you can take your equipment, set it up, and rent it out. The next thing, and Bang and I appreciate that there are people who have editing and post-production help, because we'll flip on a mic, we'll talk your ear off. Neither of us want to or have the aptitude to do edit and post-production. If that's something you're gifted at, that is a tremendous opportunity. I think about a friend of mine who's a music producer. He has gotten into the podcast editing. He's charging $300 to $500 per 30-minute episode that he's editing. So if that's in your skill set, I would highly encourage you to find ways to use your editing prowess to generate money.
Yep. The third one is events and workshops. So people, again, they need spaces to go and do webinars or even interviews for that matter. And so to Chris's point, if you're open to having a space designated in your home, that's great. If not, you can find a spot at your local library. But just to be able to use a good quality camera or a good quality microphone, there's money in that, and you guys can tap into that for sure.
I wanted to add something real quick on events and workshops. Find your local, well, we'll get to that in a minute, actually. I'm skipping ahead. Yeah.
Content Retainer is another one at podcastvideos.com. That's something that we've seen that's worked really well. And so just a monthly subscription, you know, maybe you offer, whether that's space or whether that's saying, hey, I will allow you to come here and I'll edit every single month for X amount of dollars. The more people you have on retainer, obviously the more revenue you can generate, and it doesn't have to be a heavy lift for you.
Yep. And then brand partnerships. I think that feels really far away and hard to fathom for a lot of smaller podcasters. The thing we would encourage you to do, find your family members, your friends who have businesses, throw them into your podcast. Do reads for them, because when you do ultimately get to the point where you're going to go out and you're going to sell space on the podcast, you're going to already have existing spots there. It makes it more attractive to a prospective advertiser if you actually already have people in there that you're shouting out as advertisers. You don't have to tell anybody you're giving it away for free.
That's right. And so how do you activate new business? The first thing is word of mouth. A lot of us creators, we create and we're passionate about it, but we don't tell anybody. Nobody knows. Even sometimes family doesn't know that you have a podcast. And so the first and the oldest and tried and truest and easiest way to activate new business is to actually talk about it, word of mouth.
Yep. Social media, of course, we've already talked about the power of that, of discoverability and getting people. And so as people are discovering your content, be sure to also use that as an opportunity to promote the fact that you provide these editing and recording services.
Social media is a bad word depending on who you talk to. I'm a social media manager, and so depending on the day, I'll scream at you or give you a hug. But it is an extremely valuable tool when leveraged the correct way. And so you find some people that say post every day, all day, nonstop. And then you find some people that say once a week will suffice if you're consistent. So as long as you're utilizing that tool, it's very helpful for you. And then events. As Chris mentioned kind of about the brand partnership, sometimes if you partner with a brand, even for no money, just the exposure for them and for you is helpful. And we've seen the same thing happen in events. If you have a local nonprofit that's doing a shoe drive or anything, and you come and you set your camera up, that's exposure. And that's letting people know, hey, I'm a professional in this space. If you need audio and video work, you can come to me for it.
Yep, that's been a great, we went to a local business journal's Business of the Year event. We set up shop. We recorded people's stories. People love telling their stories, right? And you guys love telling those stories. That's why you're podcasters. So it's a great opportunity to go to those events, make some connections, and sell some studio time that way. And then don't give up piece. We had a friend who is now a sideline reporter for CBS Sports that came in and was talking about how do you, what's your best piece of advice? And his thing was just keep generating content. I would say the same thing with trying to sell your studio time and finding ways to monetize it. Just keep attacking it one bite at a time, and eventually I think the gates will open for you.
Yep, you guys, I would say this last tip is the most important. It's so easy to get burnt out, and it's so easy to just give up. We were talking earlier today, most podcasts don't make it past episode 3. And when I say most, I mean an overwhelming 90% of podcasts. And so not giving up, especially as it pertains to starting a new business, is crucial. And so this slide says, the future is video, and it starts now in your studio. This was supposed to move. We had a whole bunch of different, moving graphics, but the Wi-Fi was tripping a little bit. So, but the future's video, and it starts now. So I would say just lean in.
As we wrap up, and we may have like 1 minute for questions, as we mentioned, we're with podcastvideos.com. We have the studio, but we're also a weekly e-newsletter for content creators, for podcasters. We would love for you guys, hit the QR code, subscribe to our like and subscribe e-newsletter. We won't overly spam you. We really are about bringing value on everything from lighting cues to microphones. How do you engage on social? You name it, you can find it there.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off what Chris said, you guys. So podcastvideos.com, we are the go-to resource for all things audio and video. We nerd out about this stuff. We talk about AI. To Chris's point, we talk about how do you go from your couch to starting your own podcast? How do you go from a community of supporters to monetizing that? And the website is uploaded daily with this information. And so we curate the best of the best, put it in the newsletter. So subscribe to it for some valuable content. Also for a chance to maybe win $100. Don't tell anybody I said that. I'll get Chris to give you $100 potentially. So maybe 30 seconds for questions.
Yeah, we got a limited time. Does anybody have a question?
Is there any podcast business management software that you recommend, like a Podix or anything like that?
You know what? I'm going to direct you to our friend Brooke back there running the camera. Brooke is our technology and tech innovator person. You don't want
What was the question one more time? I'm sorry.
Is there any recommended for those of us that own studios? Any recommended management software that people can book and they can allocate times and rooms?
Yep. So I can answer that, but I can also pass it to Brooke, who knows much, much better than me about that. So holler at Brooke when this is over with. That's a great question.
Yep. Anybody else?
Dang, I guess we did good.
All right. We answered it all. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, guys.